Hello and welcome to the latest Manufacturing Management live panel event. My name is Chris Beck. I'm the editor of Manufacturing Management magazine. Today's session is sponsored by Enreach, a leading business communications provider offering everything from business phone systems to broadband and business mobiles to IT solutions. We're going to be exploring 5G within the manufacturing sector, what the technology is all about and how it can benefit those in UK industry. As fifth generation mobile data technology becomes more deeply embedded, so its impact on manufacturing infrastructure becomes even greater. But how is this going to shape the future of the industry? Well, increased flexibility, efficiency, and responsiveness will in turn bring quicker and more autonomous reactions to supply and demand on the production line. Safety will be enhanced and the speed of innovation will be increased. Within office spaces, faster data transfer brings opportunities for more immersive experiences and more creative ways to engage with shop floor staff and bring remote teams together. So it's all, a very exciting future. And to help me discuss it over the next 45 minutes or so, I'm delighted to be joined by an expert panel today. And they are Duncan Ward, CEO of Enreach, our sponsor today. Ricardo Weber, project manager for manufacturing at WM5G, a 5G testbed in the West Midlands. Ian Bouquet-Taylor, Operations Director at AE Aerospace, a subcontract manufacturer within the aerospace industry, but is also part of the WM5G consortium. Simon Coombs, Managing Director for Industry X at business consultancy Accenture. And last but not least, Keith Perrin, Senior Director of Smart Manufacturing and Digital Transformation at Hexagon Manufacturing. Thanks to you all for being here today. But before we begin, can I get each of you to very quickly introduce yourselves? Duncan, if we can quickly start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, Duncan Ward, CEO of Enreach. Enreach is a name probably not many people have heard of. We rebranded about 4 months ago, previously known as Network Telecom, but we're part of the Enreach group, which is 1,000 employees across Europe and about 2 million customer base. My background a little bit, I've been in the industry for about 30 years, so worked across Orange, Telefonica, and most of the networks, and more recently was appointed as CEO of Enreach Network Telecom previously last year. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Duncan. Simon, we'll come to you next.
Hi everybody. So I lead what's called digital manufacturing operations within Accenture. So that's applying digital solutions to industrial clients to drive value. So of course, we're combining lots of different types of digital technology. So of course, 5G is one of those. But it's bringing the technology together with the human element, the human side, to drive transformation and ultimately to drive to a new way of working and therefore to deliver value.
Thank you, Simon. Ricardo, we'll come to you next.
Hi, good afternoon. So I'm Ricardo Weber. I work for West Midlands 5G, who have basically won the testbed trials for 5G in the West Midlands. We have different verticals. So I lead the manufacturing vertical, but we have also health and social care. We also have transportation. And then another big thing that we're trying to do in the West Midlands is accelerating the infrastructure that is needed to actually use 5G on a wider scale. My background is mainly in manufacturing. I've been working in automotive, aerospace, off-highway, and also in the manufacture of cables and fiber optical cables as well.
Great, thanks. Ian, we'll come to you next.
So I'm Ian Bouquet-Taylor. I'm the Operations Director here at AE Aerospace. We're a make-to-print machining manufacturer, so we machine from solid in aluminiums and technical steels and a few other exotics as well for predominantly aftermarket and service spares into the military and civil aviation arena. We also provide an awful lot of stuff into the Rolls-Royce Marine network for the Type 42, Type 45, Type 26 and the Elizabeth class of carrier. So we're pushing the boundaries of what technology can do for them and working with West Midlands 5G to do exactly the same here.
Thanks, Ian. And finally, Keith.
Hi there. My name's Keith Perrin, based here in the UK. I'm part of a company called Hexagon. Hexagon is a relatively new name in the world of design, engineering, production, manufacturing software. There's about 20,000 of us now across the world, involved in a number of different industries, including discrete and process manufacturing, mining, agriculture, geospatial systems, and so on, providing tools and technologies to help our customers really get to grips better, in our case, for discrete manufacturing with design, engineering, production, quality, right across their processes. So trying to integrate all that together. So that's me.
Brilliant. Thanks everybody. Like I say, it's a real expert panel today. So hopefully we're about to have a really interesting and engaging conversation. I guess if we kind of start off with the basics, really, for people watching who maybe aren't aware of 5G and maybe some of the applications it can have, some of the benefits it can have for manufacturers. Duncan, if I come to you again first, why should manufacturers be thinking about 5G? What are some of the benefits that they can see? And then I'll open it up to the rest of the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the main, there's a misnomer really where people think, oh, 5G, everything's just going to be faster and that's all of what it's about. Yeah, of course, speed is important. But I think where we've been obviously focusing on fast, reliable data connectivity, fast, reliable business grade broadband, calls won't be dropping out, data transfers won't be stopping and interrupting and buffering. We've started to expect the demand and the quality of delivery to become the norm. And I think obviously we've all gone through 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G. Is it just going to be faster? Yes, it will be, but I think in the main, it's bringing quality, it's giving reliability, and it's also breaking down barriers. Again, even when you have speed coming into buildings in particular, if you think of the manufacturing world, is trying to get machines, buildings, and areas where there is operation where you can't get connectivity. 5G and also gives you a broader spectrum, so therefore the ability to connect to the network and have a stronger, reliable connection and speed. 5G brings you so much more. So it's bringing you that business grade broadband, but into a mobile or remote environment. That in particular is where we'll see a lot of the benefit.
Thanks, Duncan. Ian and Ricardo, I'll bring you in actually at this point. Obviously, you're both working directly and indirectly on the 5G testbed consortium in the West Midlands. Ian and I guess Ricardo as well, what benefits have you seen and how do you work with WM5G on the kind of 5G work that you're doing?
So if you don't mind if I start first, Ricardo. So from our point of view, we wouldn't be doing this without the benefit of the testbed that is WM5G. So effectively they bring the expertise and the knowledge that an SME isn't going to have. I mean, this is like me suddenly going and deciding to build the pyramids without having never seen sand. From our point of view, when we first engaged with West Midlands 5G just over a year ago, it was conversations around what is potentially the issues for us as a business and what are the things we want to achieve, and then suddenly dismissing 100,000 ideas and distilling it down to the ones that 5G would support and would benefit, because some of what we wanted to do we could have done with current technologies, 4G, Wi-Fi, etc. But when we get to the fact that understanding that we've got three use cases. Our first use case is about enabling our machines to be digitally taught to one another and back to the schedule. When you've got vast amounts of data traveling back and forward, the more machines, workstations and operations you add into that, on a normal network, you'd eventually slow down and churn up. We can't afford to do that. We need to keep that live. So that's where 5G came in. The same with the other two use cases. And we knew there was a benefit from doing it. We didn't know what that was or how to do it. And for us, that's what West Midlands 5G brought to us.
Yeah, and I can add another use case that we're doing with the Manufacturing Technology Center in Coventry as well, where one of the features of 5G, one of the big benefits is also the very, very low latency, where it's really, really important that the signal sent and the signal received is like almost instant, or at least for us, instant. And also the handover between different cells, different small cells. So if you have, for example, I'm sitting upstairs in my house, we have Wi-Fi. If I go down with this computer to where the actual router is, It might be that I'm freezing for a short period of time when it hands over to actually the router. You wouldn't have that with 5G if the internal radio network is actually laid out the right way. And this is an application we have with the MTC, where you have an autonomous robot flying through the shop floor delivering products. You don't want it to stop, wait to hand over its signal, and then continue to go. You want it continuous. So that's another benefit of 5G. Generally, for manufacturers, I think there's a huge potential for increase, not only in efficiency, but actually true productivity as well. And that's what we're looking at together with AE Aerospace.
Simon, yeah, please.
I think this productivity angle is really important. I mean, what we've had so far is really around increasing the capacity with machines, the whole latency in terms of autonomous vehicles. If I add a couple more in that productivity area, then the first is really around that connectivity for over-the-shoulder coaching, for instance, and access to experts. So a real example under COVID is that one of my clients in the nuclear industry just having to receive and inspect major pieces of equipment that would normally take sort of 6 people, from the supplier, from the inspector, from the the warehouse, blah, blah, all having to come at a particular time to go and meet. And so actually using a connectivity now, one person could be there with a camera over the hands-free camera and so forth, in a sort of a similar situation to this. It's like equivalent of a Zoom meeting, and can do that quality inspection now, both in terms of, I mean, yes, we're working remotely, and access the experts remotely, but also if you think about the productivity gain of just the simple sort of half an hour to arrange the people turn up at the meeting, as opposed to a whole day of perhaps travel to go and organize. I think the third and the fourth area, then the final, is really around with the higher bandwidth, has the capability to get more content. And so it is obviously, with other technologies, it's been standard that, we have electronic work packages and stuff like that, information available on the shop floor. But with limited bandwidth, that limits the speed of information flow, and even just the capacity of that. If you can now make this step change in bandwidth, which we're seeing 100 times improvement, for instance, in 5G, you can now reliably share that complex content. And then that brings a whole series of use cases about bringing the information to the shop floor, as opposed to, experts having to go back to their desk, for instance, for things. So, it's really interesting, the step change potential coming from this technology.
And Keith, yeah, over to you.
I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit. With the customers we're seeing, there's a bit of a revolution going on in the manufacturing world right now. You can see it with some customers and companies versus others, and it is night and day. Traditionally, manufacturing, I mean, way back when, was a very people-oriented thing, and still is to a large extent. Capturing the input from a worker at the end of a production line from a quality inspection perspective is really important, right? And it still is. But we're also seeing, rather more recently, connections between applications and systems being important to make decisions that are happening on the line, right? A simple example is an MES system connected to an ERP system, or a PLM system connected to an ERP system. That was nice, it's useful. We can start linking design more closely to what's going on the manufacturing shop floor, which is awesome. In itself, creating quite a lot of data. There's some of those simulations. I mean, I've just had one today. It was 192,000 cores being used on the cloud. So you can imagine the amount of data was huge, right? So how are you going to move that amount of data around quickly? The only way you're going to do it is with something like 5G. If that wasn't enough, then on a modern production line, you've got thousands of sensors, hundreds of thousands of sensors. How do you connect all of those up in a way that makes sense so that you can put together an autonomous production cell? Something that can adjust depending on whatever just came in the front door and produce the thing that you wanted, right? That flexibility is only enabled by things like 5G, because all of those thousands of sensors, they can only work if the latency is there for them to work together and cooperate in an autonomous way. It's the only way these things are going to work. So for us, what I'm seeing is a mixture of people, as always, those application levels of data systems integrated together, but also increasingly devices, smart devices, helping us understand what's actually going on and making decisions about them real time. So you combine all of that from a manufacturing perspective, some rather unique things start to happen with the scale that you can do manufacturing. You know, all of a sudden, perhaps we don't need 1 million square feet of real estate somewhere. Perhaps we can set up something more locally, more efficient, more focused perhaps on what that local environment needs rather than what everybody needs.
I'll just pick up on that, actually. I think that, you know, obviously we're a much smaller supplier with 19,000 square feet. But from our point of view, yeah, the ability to link various bits and pieces together is going to transform what we do. We're going to be able to, or we are doing, linking our machines to our manufacturing plant. So that if there is an issue, the software basically makes decisions amongst itself and offers solutions that say, you were going to do this, now our advice is to do that. We can override it, of course, but if we set the parameters up properly, you know, that group of machines can do that, so that you move it from that machine to that machine to that machine. We have that flexibility to get through things and keep hitting our plan. Now, our long-term goal is to produce what we call the glass factory, and the glass factory is, and the simplest analogy I can make is, today, if you want to get on a bus, you join a queue, you get on a bus. If it's full, tough. If you want to go and fly on a plane, you book a ticket, you pay in advance, and when your time comes around, you go and fly on a plane, as long as you're going somewhere green, you passed your COVID test. But that's the difference between where we are now with our customers and where we need to be. So if we can tell our customers, I've got capacity, and I can guarantee that capacity because I know my system's telling me it's still there, you can sell that space before you get to it. Whereas what we're doing now is a customer sends us a drawing and a specification and says, right, can you tell me how long it's going to take to make that part? Yeah, okay, well, the first thing I do is 4 weeks of investigation before I even start. And so you can't have it till week 8, week 10. So it's a bit like, you know, you're waiting for the 4th or 5th bus or 4th or 5th train to come along and you try and get on. Whereas what you could do is go, right, I'm going to ask you to manufacture in week 38. Here's the drawing now. Right, well, if you buy in week 38's capacity, give me some money up front, I'll buy the material, I'll pay my people, and then you charge you for the rest when it comes around to it. And that changes completely, especially for SME, the working capital cycle of our business. And that's enabled only by us having all those things working together and some real smart technology behind it going, you don't want to do that, you want to do this, based on what the inputs we provide.
Yeah. So Ian, you made a really, really important points about the technology. And what's interesting is, and maybe for the audience is that, you know, sometimes that you can get carried away about the technology. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a step change. But in order to get this benefit, we need to make sure that the culture change, the metrics, the transformation happens, combined with that technology. And often a lot of the focus is in trying to make things, practically make it to happen, join up all the bits, all the integration. And what we've certainly found is that you need to equally focus on, okay, how can you change the cultures to the new ways of working to be able to exploit that technology? Are you finding the similar when you're implementing that, Ian, in your environments? Well,
it's interesting you say that, Simon. So we've started the lesson we pass on to everybody is start small. So we have 4 manufacturing cells around the business. We've only converted 1 of which into 5G on the system because we want to make the mistakes on that one. It's also our biggest run and repeater line, so we've got more chance of doing the same thing over and over again. And following up from this project, we're actually going to run another project to expand it. That's our own project rather than the WM5G one. But alongside that, we're actually going to run a behavioural change project. So we're working with Aston University to bring in someone who's experienced in behavioural change, because we're going from lots of bits of paper and stamps and people signing bits of stuff to flashing your ID card at the thing and looking at your photograph and making sure it's you and that's you, and that's a bit of a mind shift for some of the guys we've got around us. And the fact that it's going to interact with you and you've got to touch a screen and you don't have any drawings anymore, they're going to be on the screen and you're going to be able to articulate. For some of the guys here who are probably 10 or 15 years older than me, that's like, okay, I'm in the realms of Minority Report here, and it is. But equally, it's the way we've got to go. So we understand, as you said, Simon, the behavioural change is the bigger part, and so we're going to work on that, and we will expand rapidly, but sensitively, to make sure people come along with us and support those people that are finding it difficult, because we know people will.
With a thought for you guys, we've seen analogies here in Hexagon with what's gone on in software in the past, particularly with some of the move to cloud native architectures and so on, flexible systems, integrated API-driven software stacks, vertically integrated teams, which does engender some of the cultural shifts as it has done in the past. We're seeing those things from our perspective start to happen on a manufacturing shop floor, right? At least one, in fact, several companies, but there's one company I know, 50% of the folks on the shop floor now are software engineers. They're not traditional manufacturing guys. Are you guys seeing that? And are you seeing some of the same sorts of elements go on in terms of advising people and getting there and changing the way you do things?
I think it's twofold. I think we are by default an old-fashioned skilled labour environment. We cherish and need those skills in some areas, but with the technology we've got now, we need to take it out of people's heads. It's going back to standard work. We can do better standard work digitally than we can do on bits of paper or in people's little black books, which we don't want. We want to be able to do it. And I've made it no secret here that my challenge, if you like, is to de-skill it enough that we don't have to have the high level skill. Now, to do that, you move the skill back up the ladder. So the skill has to go back up to the planning, it has to go back up to the data being controlled at the front end, and has to go back up to the front end engineering, so that you can de-skill it and take it away. And it's, rather than relying on an artisan to make a component, what we need to do is to engineer the components properly. We work in a very low volume environment where that doesn't naturally happen. We're not high volume manufacturing like an automotive manufacturer, where last week you were working in Greggs, this week you're assembling car seats. It doesn't work like that. So we recruit for skills. Some of those skills are getting more and more difficult to meet. So what we'd rather do is have fewer people with the high level skills and using those to engineer the product properly, and then having people we can bring up to those skill levels, starting with less skills, to make the components in the first place, because everything is engineered well, and digital connectivity helps us with that. It doesn't solve it completely, but it certainly helps us with it, Keith.
Great.
We've certainly seen within our clients, and again across a range of different industries, the need for new roles, and normally say maybe perhaps 20 to 30% of new roles, but actually it's that other 70% of how do you then reskill them and reskill that workforce to be able to then use these new tools. And you made a really important point around these solutions. I suppose because there's more access to information and it's faster and easier, you can make the solutions more intuitive.
Yeah.
In the good old days when we were all sort of starting out life, 20, 30 years ago, it was all about, I have to have my detailed training before I can, use such and such screen or whatever. Nowadays, the expectation, by the way, of our new recruits and also the workforce in general, is like they want it to be intuitive. They want to be able to actually use these tools in an intuitive fashion and to get on with their job. And so that's going to be an important. So a lot of this is less about the connectivity, although that's the catalyst, if you like, and it's about these other factors, the softer factors.
I think the other thing I've got our third use case, which is a vision camera system for inspection. Now we're not great, compared to some of the stuff Keith's probably seen in Hexagon from the metrology side of their organisation. But this is a technology. What we're trying to do is we've got one operator, one inspector, who is the world expert on how good these parts should be. He's the only one with it embedded in his head. If he's had a night on the beer, as I keep saying, and I'll keep telling him I'm going to do it for him one day, or he's had a row or anything else, or if he's off sick, no one else has got the knowledge he's got in his head. Now, this camera system's job is to teach the camera system what he knows. So it will take a very high resolution set of images, stitch them all together, produce a map of this component, and identify various surface finish marks and everything else. He will over time teach it what's good and what's bad, so that we can take that away from him, because if ever he's off sick or he's on holiday, no one else has got the knowledge. And then what we run is somebody else will check it, not with the same level of ability as he's got. Well, this AI system will do that day and night in the dark, whatever happens. Now, I'm not taking it away from him. He is still the world expert, but what he's now done is passed that knowledge into a machine that can repeat it and
Ian,
intuitively.
He can use his skills, this high level of skills that he has, actually not in the every single piece application where most of them are well, or it's a repeating issue or repeating pattern, but he can focus his time and skill on the difficult bits.
And
so this is, I think, where we're upskilling the whole.
Yeah, it also becomes, you're moving him up the scale of how important he is.
Exactly.
And what you're also doing is you make him a teacher to other people of what that level is, because it's backed up by a software system that's recorded everything he's learned.
And I think this is also where what we talked about earlier, with the efficiencies coming in, you actually use your workforce much, much better, because instead of running after the stamp or finding the caliper gauge that they have left somewhere, it's there, and they can use their time and skills on the actual bit that they're supposed to do, rather than firefighting issues that are minor, basically.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting. We've been doing some work with the World Economic Forum about what this means in terms of trends. And there's two trends. There was a number of trends, but two that stood out to me. One was removing the routine or automating the routine. Exactly to your point about this expert with the standard parts. But the interesting opposite side to that is that you now need to enable the non-routine, because and there's two reasons for that. One is because actually the non-routine becomes special. And so actually people aren't used to, having built up gradually for those special cases. And so you need to be able to find how can you access that expert when you need it and so forth. But then also, as well as being, sort of special, it's going to need probably a variety of skills which you haven't, you've now got rid of, because you've automated the routine work. And so, these are the types of sort of subtle changes then that we're going to have to be preparing for within our manufacturing space.
Absolutely, yeah. Duncan, can I just bring you in quickly here? We've obviously heard a lot about Ian and what AE Aerospace are doing, and by extension WM5G. Do you think is Ian an outlier, essentially? Is AE Aerospace a bit of an outlier, and all the other the best practice things that Simon and Keith and Ricardo have also talked about? Are you seeing UK manufacturing almost, I don't want to disparage it when we've got such a great panel here, but is it living up to its reputation of being a little bit technology reticent, especially around things like 5G? Or is Ian and AE Aerospace, are they an outlier? Are they, the mainstream, I suppose, when it comes to 5G and adoption?
Well, I think possibly mainstream, but I think there's a mishmash really of, some people are really up and close with what's going on, and some are not. I think there really is a mix, but I think it's moving at such a pace now. It's really important that, it's our responsibility to ensure that people feel educated, they understand what is available. Some people are reticent to move as fast as the technology is now enabling to do so. And I think through some of the things that we're doing, some white papers, educational videos, and various other things to show what is available. And we've talked a lot again today about machines and information and data and latency. That's absolutely critical, but I think it's even much bigger than this in terms of people, hiring talent, communication within people within the industry. It's not just a case of you've got the management team sitting behind a screen and you've got the workers on the line. The whole industry is changing, where everything is coming together. Communication and information is critical, and I think it's educating businesses where they can communicate with each other. You take a typical industrial estate, you might have two factories work, under the same company ownership. Building 1, building 2, they see each other once a year at the Christmas party. So it's the communication between those people, the information, sharing the vision of the management, understanding where the business is going, its strategy, its direction, how well are they performing. All of the technology is now there available through cloud, through 5G to enable this with speed, with efficiency, and to your hand. It's critically changing. And I think for those in the industry that aren't changing as fast as they should be, through education, I think they will realize they're going to have to. So I think, many are well advanced, as Ian's been demonstrating, but I think you've still got a lot of pockets where they don't really quite know yet what they could do. it's our responsibility to educate them as to what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Ricardo, organizations like WM5G as well have that responsibility to, you know, using case studies like AE Aerospace and all the other companies that you work with. How do you spread the word, if you like, of 5G, and what do you tell manufacturers in particular about why they need to be considering 5G?
The first thing that I always say is 5G is a technology, it's an enabler, but in itself, it doesn't fix a problem. It enables you to fix a problem if you put the other side in from your side as well. Like with Ian, I mean, Ian is the perfect example of somebody being open-minded and willing to try, but also, as he said, in one of the cells, if something goes wrong, we're learning and we're taking it forward. So we're being quite honest about the things that work, but also the things that don't work. And with panels like here, we're doing quite a lot of other sessions in autumn when in AE Aerospace we have things to show and really fancy things to share. We will take other SMEs around AE Aerospace. We're doing that with MTC now. To actually hands-on see it, we also have accelerators in 3 cities in the Midlands where you can come as a manufacturer or as another business and really test 5G as itself and what it does, and have test cases that you want to try. So we're trying to be very, very open and simple. I think it's about simplicity. It's about, I can tell you everything about 5G that you want, that I know, but is it relevant to you? So I'm asking the question first, what is it that you want to get out, rather than me giving you a download on what 5G can do, because it might not be relevant. Maybe latency is not something that Ian needs. So why would I tell him about that? so it's about understanding the SME, the manufacturer, what is really your problem, and take it from there. And then we also have to sometimes be honest, is 5G the right solution, or is there something else we could do? So we just have to be honest with these guys. We have to be really helping them rather than just giving them the download. So this is what we're trying to do in West Midlands 5G.
Absolutely. Simon, is there anything from an Accenture point of view that you'd add to that?
Yeah, just if I link back to a point that was made, it's about starting small. And so many of our clients, want to sort of start to, explore these areas, do proof of concepts and so forth. And just really, I suppose, a health warning on that. Our analysis has shown that probably less than 20% actually get the return on the investment, because if you like, they've got just POCs everywhere, proof of concepts and pilots and so forth. So one of the other key messages, as well as culture change and technology, is going to be about scaling. And value doesn't come from the POCs. The value comes from scaling and transforming across the enterprise. And that really takes the organization having a clear plan of where you're going to go, a roadmap, and this momentum of driving the change. And if you can drive that scale across your organization, then you'll get that benefit. Absolutely, to Ricardo's point, start with the outcome of what you're going to try and achieve, and then make sure you have the programs to go and actually scale for that.
I'll just add to that. I think that's a very valid and pertinent point. I think, when we looked at it, we have a clear path to go across the enterprise, as you said. But if I'd have tried to do this everywhere in one go, I wouldn't have the resource to support it, and I'd have stalled. So it's a case of I'll put it on 5 machines out of 19. Let's do that. That sounds a sensible place to be, and they're repeatable. It's not different products every day. So it was just a sensible piece. But we will not get that full return on investment. In fact, in the metrics we run with West Midlands 5G, we have partitioned off the project area, and we have a set of metrics of those and a complementary set of metrics, the same metrics, but for the rest of the organization, so that we can show that 5G is actually, advancing us and moving us on faster than non-5G. Partially because I wanted to show causality, I think, because otherwise we won't be getting better anyway, because I've suddenly started looking in more detail at more areas. The second part is our next phase of this, as I sort of alluded to slightly earlier, was we will expand to another cell. And what we're probably going to do about the behavioral changes, we're probably going to do the next cell will go 5G, the current cell will go 5G and behavior, and the third of the 4 cells will only do behavior. so that we can prove that actually 2 + 2 = 6, because the behavioral change and the technology change is going to outweigh either of the other two, but we need to prove that for ourselves, and that way then we'll be really expand it. And I can see us actually going everywhere very quickly after we finish this project, because we can already see the benefits of doing it and the links to what it's going to do for us as a business, in terms of us and our customers.
I've got a point to bring to bear on some of this. As an engineer that actually left the UK because of its engineering prowess to go to the US and hang out with rocket scientists, I feel like I've gotten a very strong opinion about where we are as a country in the world, right? We revolutionized the world with some of what we did many years ago. And I think some of the recent challenges that we've got, especially now I'm back, have given us an opportunity, which if we choose to embrace it, puts us in a rather unique and different position. But there is some dichotomies that we need to overcome, right? So we just talked about how 5G, for example, can help us achieve more flexible, low cost engagement on new manufacturing activities. But if the cost of adopting 5G is so astronomical that the average SME can't adopt it, or the average startup, worse still, can't somehow use it, then the attractiveness of where we are suddenly gets less. And we're in a unique space as the UK right now, especially given what's going on, where we have to get more people involved in manufacturing. We have to start building things again to make our economy the world leader it should be, in my book. So I think things like 5G and other infrastructure technologies like it are key. Some of the guys in MTC and some of those other startups that Ricardo mentioned earlier are just fantastic examples of the sorts of thing we need to be doing together with this and bringing it all together to bring to bear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've obviously touched a lot on this panel, and I've touched on various other panels around you know, what we can do to boost UK manufacturing and get it, just as Keith was saying there, back to the kind of level that it should be at, or at least is perceived to be at. And 5G, along with all other technologies, is kind of one key step on that journey. The trouble is, I think quite often that the SMEs in particular, a bit like Keith alluded to there, see 5G, Industry 4, whatever you want to call it, all this shiny new technology as being something for, you know, the BAE Systems, the Jaguar Land Rovers, when as Ian's proving, and you know, and Ricardo and the startups and smaller companies that they're working with, that's obviously not the case. Ian obviously has an SME, a smaller company embracing technology. What would you say to kind of SMEs in particular who maybe are thinking, oh, Industry 4 is not for me, 5G is not for me, I'm still in the third industrial revolution, and
I've still got people trying to trash my looms is the problem. I think the reality is that you know, I spend a lot of time, you know, when I've got 5 minutes, looking at various magazines, including your own, and we all talk about Industry 4. I think the problem is if you went back to the first industrial revolution, nobody told them what it looked like or what it shaped like, and I think that's the level of the industry. We've got an awful lot of people that write about it, but it won't be the shape that we said it was going to be. We don't understand what it's going to give us, but we don't understand, you know, if 20 years ago we'd have talked about the fact that Industrial Light and Magic now did everything from everything for films, and did films without people in, we wouldn't have believed it because we wouldn't be able to see it. And I think that's where we are with Industry 4. We won't understand what we can have because there are entrepreneurs out there. I think the problem is, taking Keith's point, Britain doesn't have Isambard Kingdom Brunel anymore. It doesn't have Alan Turing anymore because we don't lord those people up. What we do have is an awful lot of very clever people in the background who are developing extremely good technologies in global companies. Whether or not the UK government decides to invest and perform that, and they do, because we obviously have various technology support packages around the UK, but it does seem that Big Corp is basically, as Keith put it, is in the States or in Asia, and is willing to invest in develop those technologies more than we can see the commercial viability for in some of the companies we've got in the UK. But I'm working with 3 UK companies who are helping us out to deliver this project. Now, when I come to look at the front end, yes, it's BT and it's Ericsson, and they are providing a lot of support, a lot of help, and to be fair, a lot of cash to get us to where we need to be. But as working with the test bed over in Worcester, What we're really doing is building the how not to and the how to guide for SMEs, and that's one of the outputs of the project we're on, so that we can go, so very nicely, the kit we've got in here at the minute is very high grade sort of commercial top end equipment. We're talking the Rolls-Royce of 5G equipment, and the reality is that there is equipment coming of a much more affordable nature for SMEs to pick up on and run with. And I think the conversations we're having with Worcester and West Midlands 5G and the other guy, the Ericsson guys, is you don't need to be buying Rolls Royces. You can go out and buy effectively the Mondeos of this world and do exactly what you need to do at the speed you need to do, at the package size you need to do. And probably cost an awful lot less to keep serviced and managed, but will get you where you need to be, because we don't need to. We haven't got like Keith's point. We haven't got 100,000 sensors on a production line. If we were Ford and I've got production line in Dagenham, for instance, I'm with 2 million sensors on it. Yeah, I need industrial level equipment, but I can probably afford to do it. Me, I'm probably going to have about 3,500, 4,000 sensors all blipping away at a time. If I've got that many, it's still a lot for me to handle on a Wi-Fi network. It ain't going to work. So, but I don't need the top end equipment to do it. So I think that the outcome of what we're trying to do is to sort of build a path, if you like, to that Industry 4 that isn't fraught with snake oil and isn't fraught with, well, Ricardo will tell you, one of my feedbacks is stop blinding me with jargon. Make it so I understand what's going on, because I can blind you with jargon about material if you want me to, but you won't understand it. So stop blinding me with jargon about electronics and 5G and God knows what else, and all this gobbledygook. Tell me what's going to work and what's not going to work, because that's the way people like me who really don't understand this stuff, and need 13-year-olds to change the TV over, are going to get the best out of it. And that's the way you're going to engage. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. I'm not saying I'm unique. I'm not saying I'm the person that represents every manufacturing company in the UK. But I know an awful lot of people like me are sitting there going, what is this going to do for me?
Yeah,
let me play games a bit faster.
You are now my favourite person, Ian. We have a saying around here: we don't know what we don't know. That's the first one, and the other one is it's one Arthur C. Clarke came up with: any sufficiently advanced tech is indistinguishable from magic.
Yes. Yes, at the moment there is many magic things. It's like we talk about here, a bag of 5G hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Don't talk to me about the genuflections for technology. What does it do?
Exactly.
But I think, Ian, you don't really care if it's magic or not, as long as it's easy for you to use. So I think this is also a path we'll have to take, is very much make it almost plug and play. Yeah. Because you don't want to spend time actually putting up the dots and doing everything in the factory, because you have machines to run. Yes. So what you need is, this is my box, this plugs in, type up the machine, boom, it works. Thanks very much, because that's what we need to get to.
A bit like Wi-Fi at the moment. You buy a box, you stick it in, you find the Wi-Fi connection, done. Thank you very much, walk away. And 5G's got to go there. But equally, I will say this, we have another phrase, I'm going to start trading phrases now. It's don't let perfect get in the way of better. So don't wait until it's the nth solution if you can do something better today. Because actually, with half of what we've got, with half of what we're working on, most companies our size can do an awful lot better than they are by connecting themselves together. Ours is, there's a lot of effort gone into doing what we do, because of the fact we're working with DCMS and we're proving technology out to a level that they're happy with, that shows that the UK has a network that can roll out across multiple sectors. But even they, I'm not being critical, they, BT and Ericsson, all talking language I can't understand, and the vast majority of SME operations directors won't understand either. So that's what needs to happen to get people back to where we need to be.
And I think
that's what I said at the beginning about the education, is the responsibility. It's highly complicated if you want it to be, but it needn't be. It is very simple. A plugs into B equals C. And again, why we've put together some educational programs, some white papers, just to try and explain how simple it is. Some people, I think, are scared, thinking, what does it mean? It's just all too complicated. No, it's not. It is very, very simple. I think it's the onus on us now to bring it through. I think other things that are out there as well. We bought recently a artificial intelligence company, and people think, I don't like talking to robots. AI has come a long way. And I think, again, once you've got now data connectivity to have the AI integrated into your business where it is highly intelligent. You want help, you want support, you want it instantly. AI now is a big thing, as we all know, will come very much into play, and 5G will enable it.
And I think today we've been talking about education, we've been talking about how to simplify and communicate the big ideas. I think the other thing we've been saying is that, you know, it's not just for the big guys, is it? It's equally valid for the small manufacturers. It's for the farmers. If you think about what's happening with farms now in terms of the amount of information they're sharing and so forth, and the advantages to really help them take forward, hospitals, the healthcare systems as well, all of these areas. So really, there's the point of being rural as well as urban, as well as manufacturing, yeah. And it's really making this pervasive across the whole of the UK. Not focusing, yes, the technology is important, but not just focusing on that. So focusing on how this can be helping us to be different and how we can keep things simple in terms of communicating the ideas. And then it's going to be successful. And then, you know, UK PLC can then be successful and in exploiting this type of technology.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think Simon, the point you were making there, and indeed Duncan and everybody else, it's one of those technologies that will suddenly just be upon us and will be completely mainstream, and we won't even think twice about it. At the moment, as with a lot of, you know, new technologies, it's big and scary, and like you were saying, Ian, it's full of jargon, and we've still got to convince people that it's something worth pursuing. But hopefully, you know, as the technology becomes more mature and companies like AE Aerospace demonstrate their ability, the ability of it and the capabilities of it, then it will suddenly, before we know it, just become another thing that we all have.
I mean, it's nice. It's nice that people recognise us and talk about us and invite us to panels like this. It's good for the soul. It's also good for the publicity, I'll be quite honest. But the other part of it is you know, I was on a call earlier, similar call to this, and I got asked of, well, how much can you share? Well, one, we're on a government-backed project, we've got to share. That's the first bit. But my view is, taking Simon's point, we all have to do this. It is pointless me doing this in isolation. My customer needs to do this. If I make the perfect schedule, I mean, we talked about what's the metrics. My major metric is actually accuracy of my predictions. So if I want my schedule accuracy is my major metric. It doesn't matter whether it's faster. It's about making sure I know what's going to happen next week and the week after and the week after that. So from my point of view, it's pointless me doing that in isolation. I become an island, and I'm the only one that can hit their schedule. And then my supplier can't, and my customer can't, because other people aren't doing what I'm doing. So from our point of view, you know, the whole point of working with the testbed at WM5G is to prove this can work and to encourage other people to do it. And I wholeheartedly do. Maybe, you know, I get a slight head start on people, but there'll be people racing ahead of us in what we're doing, because they'll have a reason to do it faster and quicker and more effectively. And I'm hoping that's great, because some of it will be the lessons we've learned that pass on to people to make it easy for them to do. So from our point of view, you know, when Ricardo talked about our open days, come along. If you want to come along, get on booked on, come and have a look. I've got nothing to hide from anybody, and I will talk to you about warts and all. And Duncan, next time you want to come out, fit out's that easy, come and help us out, because I've had some struggles, I really have. but that's all part of it. It was all the making it work and understanding how it works with us. So our sort of as a business, and I'm not being, you know, overly sort of sloppy. As a business, we want people to do the things we're doing. Not just on 5G, but on other things as well, because we believe that the only way we'll get better is if everybody else gets better. And that sounds really corny, but to be honest, within our sector, it's true. We won't get better unless everybody gets better.
I agree, and I think if you don't, I think it, you know, those that will get left behind. It's not just down to, you know, the manufacturing side. It's down to also attracting people that want to work for your company. You want to attract the very best to come into your company. What type of technology is this company using? And I think that goes for suppliers, that goes for customers, that goes for the people working within your business. What type of business are you, and what can you become? And I think certainly the technologies that's out there and enabling this is attracting now the talent that wants to go and work for that company, because they're forward thinking. If you don't, they're going to be left behind for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, we're rapidly running out of time. It's one of these topics that we could carry on talking about all day, I'm sure, and hopefully for everybody who's watching this, it's kind of given you an insight into industry 4 and indeed 5G technology, some of the applications. As you can see, it's a very passionate subject, and manufacturers like AE Aerospace and the companies that Ricardo and indeed Simon and Keith and Duncan work with are seeing real benefits to it. Thank you once again to the panel, to Simon, to Ricardo, to Ian, to Keith and to Duncan, our sponsors today, Enreach. Thank you everybody for your time. Thank you everybody who's watched, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon on a Manufacturing Management Live panel. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.